Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And I've had a little bit of time to do other things. We've come back now to the Ais Combat Training quest. The Stage 2 serious business is pretty serious for a lot of players. They can't do 8.5 million damage with Synergy and Aegis Resistance, two buffs that have been fairly prominent this year. And type neutral as well. So you're not getting type advantage, you're not getting the damage buff from the protection characters. There's a lot of things working against a lot of players in this fight. So I've got a couple more teams to showcase. Whether they're viable for you or not, I don't know. This stage, I would say, is not overly beginner friendly, but if you have the Danmachi team, like, that's what you're meant to use here, so just use that. But let's go ahead and jump in with the first of four? 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 teams. Alright, the first of 4 teams, but the only blue orb focused team, is going to be Summer Memories 2.0. And this is banking on a couple of different things. That you have Guy, you have Tails Shion, Divine General Raphael, Visions of Coleus Rimuru for 2 more turns of Rainbow Orbs because he is skill fused. The Summer Memories Jean and Blanc. No Violet because she's kind of not great. Expect her to get moved down the tier list when I record that in the next couple of weeks or so. But this team has extra skill points coming from Guy. It has at least 4 turns of Rainbow Orbs, because we are running at least 2 Summer Memories characters, so Blanc will be able to convert those orbs. Maybe we get lucky and there's only those. And then we have Coleus Rimuru, who's got 2 more turns of full Rainbow Orbs, because he turns all blues to rainbows, and Guy converts all orbs to blue. So that's what we're really banking on. We're going to nuke with single target Jean, even though Ice has Aegis Resistance. Jean really doesn't care that much if you buff her enough. So turn 1, we're going to Rainbow convert into 5 orbs, because Reamer only has 1. That's why he's in that specific slot. And then that allows us to have a very, very good starting hand, and it will allow us to get Jean's ult rather quickly, because Blanc has an ult right now. Jean only had 2 orbs, which is great. We just need more orbs for for Jean now, which is what we get. We get 3 of them. And since the rainbows are unnerfed, we will be looking good. So there's the convert with Guy, and then let's put the Enamor on for the extra ult gauge, and then we'll use Coleus Rimuru to change all orbs to rainbows, and then he can go out of here and we can get another stack of Raphael, who is stacking ult damage, but no synergy power, because no one on this team is doing synergy. We don't want to double nerf ourselves, right? Going against Aegis already is tough enough. No need to double, make your life extra, extra difficult. But we now have the EX ult for Jean. Okay, the attack nerf is there. Unfortunate, not much we can do about it. We would have to leave her up front, and I don't really want to do that, because I need to start holding buffs on her. So, we could do a combination of skills. Like, we could do the crit buff and the Divine General buff. We could do one of the big time buffs and Jean's Aegis and single target buff. It's really up to you and how you want to manage your skill points. But here, we have quite a few Blanc orbs, so we're going to use the second stack of that, which is the permanent 50% attack. So now Jean has 100% attack in the back, which unfortunately I think is sealed right now, except for Lord's Ambition taking that seal away, which is why Guy is really doing a lot of work here. The attack nerf, the attack seal, many, many other things. He can just make our life a little bit easier. Even though she does technically remove that on certain turns, you could just reapply it with Guy. So we're never truly in danger of that. So there's a Blanc EX ult. Alright, now we'll use the crit buff from Shion. So Jean is now holding on to the crit and the dark buff. And we just need to make sure we have 50 points? 100 and, hold on. Yeah, like 100 something points on turn 5 to use both of Jean's other skills, because we've already used Blanc's skills. Coleus Rimuru isn't doing anything for actual damage support, and we've already used the 2 big time skills. So we have enough now. We have a double stack of Guy, which means that we'll have an extra little bit of attack from that as well. And we'll be looking good. And we have a lot of orbs for Raphael, so we could bring Jean in for Raph and get the most we can out of those orbs. And technically we have enough points. We could use one more stack of Raphael as well, if I wanted to. It's not necessary, but it does just help your damage out. So there we go. We only needed 100 because BLANC skills cost 50 points each, and there's nothing else to use here. The Enamour is still active, so that's fine. We don't have to reuse it, but we have 3 alts. Great. So 1, 2, boom, boom. Single target. Doesn't apply to Jean or Xion. That's fine. And then the Aegis power for speed characters, of which Xion is not a speed character. So let's go ahead and send this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Xion does 1 damage. BLANC does 435. And then Jean orbs do about 300k a hit. It's pretty good, considering. 620, and then her single target ult does 7.9 million damage. And that is just enough to get us over the hump. It's not fantastic damage, but it is enough to kill, and that's all that really matters. But you do require a few certain characters to do this, and you do need Coleus Remove's skill fused. Okay, the next team, also maybe not friendly for a lot of people. It does have 2 free-to-play units, but it is also combining 3 different collabs. We've got Protector Hestia, new character, free-to-play Isis, Flashback Shop, Gobwa, Warrior's Mind, may or may not have her. You could swap her out for someone else, quite honestly. And then we've got the free-to-play Soka Ryu from the Danmachi collab, Tails Xion, and Tails Hinata. Did I say 3 collabs? I meant 2 collabs. I originally had Fern in here, and then I took her out. But Tails Xion and Tails Hinata. So we do have a couple different things going on. Hinata, converting her own orbs to oranges while stealing, would go against the traditional thought because oranges have a 90% nerf in this stage. But Hestia will passively convert and actively convert 3. And as long as we can get some fairly good luck, we can just still steal orbs with Hinata, and they'll turn to orange, and then we'll just convert those with Hestia. And then there'll be a whole hand of greens that are going to be buffed by Isis. And you could, in theory, bring the free, quote-unquote, Danmachi Shuna, and she would convert, she would have the green buff, and she'd have the multi-skill, which would make you do even more damage, because you get a couple extra stacks of Soka here. But I went with Isis instead, because she has a turn 1 orb change, and that'll work. But you could bring Shuna and just move the spots for Soka and Shuna so you could convert turn 1, and you'd be just fine. And it would cost 0 points for Shuna as well for turn 1, instead of having to go and use the Isis buff on turn 2, because it costs 15. But here, we have a full hand of Hinata. We have the Therion state, so she's going to get that extra 7% dark attack per attack, but we're also going to convert a lot of them to greens, which means they're going to be buffed, and they're going to help us get more ult gauge and protection gauge and skill points. So that's how we're going to use Hinata in this fight. She's going to be our single target nuker. We're still going to stack as much as we can with her Therion state and give her the ult damage, or send her ults to get the extra 15% dark attack as well. Like, we're going to play into what Hinata wants. It's just that we're not going to give her oranges, because oranges are nerfed. We did not bring BLANC. So we have to use Hestia to actively convert those orbs back to greens. I don't really think you could do this with any other team, because no other protector does the green version of Himmel. It's just Himmel, and then that's it. And then you have a whole bunch of blue stacking protectors who need orb changers, who blues are nerfed as well. The only reason the Summer Memories team worked last clip is because we had a whole butt ton of rainbow orbs. And that's why I had to bring Coleus Rimuru. So we are making this work, continuously stealing with Hinata. Every turn we are stacking with Soka, Magic Attack, and Pierce Resistance down. Every time we stack with that, we are adding to the debuff stacks for Gobwa, getting her closer and closer to her 20 stacks she needs to get maximum Pierce Resistance down. That's also why I brought Gobwa instead of Fern, because the Pierce Resistance debuff from Soka doesn't really mean much if we're not piercing, so I wanted to take full advantage of that. But if you don't have Gobwa, you could bring some other very strong buffing character. You could bring friggin' Spirit Master Leon if you wanted to, and that would probably do a lot of damage for you as well. But Hestia, already stacking element damage. Hinata, getting Dark Attack when she ults and when she sends an orb with her Therion state, means that we have a butt ton of Dark Attack for Hinata. And we're going to have guaranteed crits from Xion. We're going to have Magic Attack and Pierce Resistance down from Soka, and we're going to have the Elemental debuff and the Pierce rate and another 120% Pierce Resistance down from Gobwa. So this team, while a bit janky looking, it does make sense. And that's because Hestia is just pretty good protector. Like, she is saving us. She's giving us the skill points. She's giving us the dark attack. She's converting multiple different times. And this is allowing us to get around the orange nerf that Hinata would be doing to herself because of her own self-conversion. Doesn't really matter. But we are just making sure we're stacking with Sokka every single turn, that we have points at least, and we are stealing with Hinata every single turn. I do want to make sure we get an EX ult for her, so there might be a time where it's like, I don't want to send the ult, I just want to send 5 orbs, and I believe I do that here in order to guarantee that we get her EX ult. So let's bring Gobble in, let's use her 2-turn debuffs so they're active for next turn, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're not going to fully break the barrier, because we're only sending 5 and we missed some, so she has 3 hits left, but thankfully a counter took 1 away. So it's turn 8. We're ready to nuke, we have the points, we have a full hand, so we can break the barrier. So let's do the Hinata debuff, ult resistance down, crit resistance down. Let's do the crit damage and crit rate from Xion, and then we gotta use Hestia to give us the 110 points, which will allow us to use Gobwa now for the 120 pierce resistance down and pierce rate. And we don't need to use the element debuff because we already used that last turn. And we don't have enough points to use Sokka again. We're too shy. So we'll just use Resurrection State. And we'll send all the orbs. And then we'll send Hinata's ult. Broke the barrier. 354k. Hinata does 10.2 million damage. Guaranteed crit and a lot of pierce down. So that's a mishmash of units. A lot of them are very premium. But there's also a couple free-to-plays in there that you could replace for additional damage support in case your team does not have the oomph. Or you need to have a different nuking character besides Hinata. You need someone else to do it. If you have Fern, you could make her the nuker technically on this team, and that would probably work. So, give it a try. But that's team number 2. Alright, next up we have an orange team. Of course, Warrior's Mind. Nerfed oranges doesn't matter if you have Blanc and you have rainbows. So, we've got Shuna, we've got Tempest Sleep Benimaru for the physical buff, and then we've got Warrior's Mind Guy. We don't actually use his buff here, but he's a primal demon. So he's going to count for the whole rainbow orb change from Violet, who's got the control stacks. And then Blanc and Goblet are going to be our 2 DPS characters. One is single target, one is AoE, and we know that this team operates well. If you don't have Guy, you could bring some other kind of primal demon character. If you wanted to bring Primal Demon Diablo from the actual Primal Demon meta, he's got a bigger physical buff and guaranteed pierce rate, so it's like he's covering a couple different things, and then you could replace Benimaru with someone else if you wanted to. That'll do extra support, or maybe some extra utility, or maybe a turn 1 convert. Like, I don't know what you want to do here, but we are going to bring in our 3 Primal Demons and use the Rainbow hand turn 1 because we have 36 starting points because we have, I think, Space Milim underneath as a support slot. And then we'll send this. We'll get Gobwa's single target ult here. I'm not super stressed about getting her EX ult. I'm more stressed about getting Blanc's ult because that has a lot of extra power difference between a normal and an EX. Whereas Gobwa, you lose a bit. It's not nearly as much though as half of your damage. So let's go ahead and debuff here and control. And then 40 skill points. Boom, boom. We just want to get those debuffs stacked up so we can get as much pierce resistance debuff as possible. And then we can bring Benimaru in. And then Rainbow Convert, another full hand. Or it's not Benimaru, but Guy. And then we bring Benimaru in. Because we're going to get the EX ult with Blanc right here. And then we'll send it. And then we could use Benimaru's physical buff now and hold it on Blanc if we wanted to. Or we could save it, because I wasn't entirely sure during this run which buffs I wanted to use on this turn. Like whether it be the Blanc and the Guy. We already have the control stacks on, so it's like, what do we want to do here on turn 3? We have a lot of Blanc orbs though. Like that's really, really good. So let's actually, I think, nuke here. We'll bring Gobble in, and then we've got the physical buff. We've got the 90 skill point big time Blanc buff. And then we could use the extra 40 skill points, or 20 skill points, and then we could apply the pierce and pierce resistance down. And we were just going to forego Guy's 80 point buff, because we just don't have the points for it. And this works, obviously, because this is the end of the fight. Turn 3 kill. So we're up to what, 97% or something. It's not super high, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. BLANC does 5.7. Gobwa does 4.2. So 3 turns. We even brought a big time buffer that we didn't use, but he's fulfilled his role for 2 different turns as being part of the Rainbow Orb change. So again, like, you don't need to bring Guy specifically, but Violet, Gobwa, BLANC, Shuna, Warrior's Mind 2.0. Really, really good team. And the final team for today's video is the Frieren team. Again, orange nerfs don't really matter if you have the power of BLANC and Raphael here, because the 50% protection gauge from Raphael's skill combined with BLANC's skill makes it not a super huge deal for here. Obviously, it'd be better if there wasn't an orange nerf, but they had to do something for this team. So the idea here is, though, we are going to nuke with 3 characters: BLANC, Fern, Frieren. We cannot use Frieren's Magic State skill unless you are nuking super early, and I really don't recommend that, because Ice will remove the Magic State status from her, and then you just will lose the countdown. So it's like, I used it on maybe this run, or maybe a previous run, on turn 5, hoping it would be ready for turn 8, and on turn 8, nothing happened, because she had taken it away. So, unfortunate. So what we have to do is leave Fern and Frieren up front the entire time, so we could lose the attack seal and the attack nerf that Ice puts on us. That way we could actually use Raphael's attack buff alongside everything else. And free-to-play Stark is here, 1, to alt-swap Fern and Frieren orbs, but also to taunt and put the synergy resistance debuff on Ice, because she has 100%, and if we use Stark 3 times, we could drop it down by 20% each, so she would have 40% synergy resistance, which still isn't great, but it also means that we will still benefit from having synergy power from Fern, because it's going to do a net 60% at that point. And that's better than getting nothing out of it by, just negating it straight up. So he's doing a couple different things here, and he can keep us protected, because his taunt will make sure he doesn't die, but also make sure no one else takes damage. But you do want to use it smartly. You don't want to just slam it 3 turns in a row, because then he's going to be really low, and then you might be unprotected for the later turns. So gotta kind of just be smart about it. But we have the BLANC EX ult. She's ready and holding in the back, and now we pretty much just have the next couple of turns to get the Frieren and Fern EX ults. And we're going to have the attack seal, we're going to have the attack nerf, but those will run out as long as they stay up front. And then I think she reapplies it, but again, it'll run out. And that means that the attack buff from Raphael, we can actually take advantage of. BLANC, I don't think we'll be able to, but it's not a big deal. She's secondary nuker, even though she's going to have that dark debuff. But Raphael comes in, we get some extra protection gauge here. We're taking Fern out because she needs the most ult gauge, so we can steal with Raphael next turn. Frieren is going to be fine with this 1 orb that's going to be buffed up. She'll get her EX ult here. So, turn kicks in. We have not a great hand, but we can steal with Raph, and then give us 4 orbs for Fern. So let's do that. Boom. And then we'll bring Fern in for Raph. That'll bring in the Stark orange orb, but we do have to use the BLANC's orange buff for the last time, turn 6. And then we'll bring Fern in, and then we can convert that 1 green orb. So let's alt swap, let's taunt again. Boom, boom. We'll use Himmel to convert, give us a little bit extra element damage, and change that green. And then this will get us close to the Frieren, or the Fern EX ult. And it'll get it'll get us close to Fern's EX ult, and it will get Frieren's EX ult. Do have to break the barrier, but the attack seal is about to run out on Fern, so it's a good thing she's up front. The attack seal is gone from Frieren, so we don't have to worry about that. And then this is a fantastic hand. We alt swapped again. We've taunted to keep them protected. Stark cannot die on this turn, even if he gets hit a whole bunch of times, because he has the grit mechanic that keeps him invincible. And then we actually break the barrier. Oh, and actually, sorry. We don't break the barrier here. Sorry, my bad. We did it on another turn, but we have one more hit, which we can do. So let's bring in Raphael for Stark. Bring in Raphael for Stark. Use the attack buff, because that will apply to both Fern and Frieren. And then we can bring BLANC in, and we have exactly enough points to use all the big time buffs. Boom, 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 boom. 5 90-point skills, plus I think one more stack of Himmel. And then we have triple EX alts. And BLANC is going to have a lot of power, but she's going to be missing the attack buff. But she's still going to hit pretty hard. And then we've got a single target Infern, so there's the barrier broken. 1 hit, and then 2 hits. 200% orb from Frieren does 131, not great. BLANC does 2.8 million. Fern does 9 million. And then Frieren would have done somewhere around like 4 million-ish damage. So we did have extra damage capability as well for backup, in case your Fern maybe isn't 120 and not strong enough. But there are 4 teams that you can use to beat the Ice event. If you didn't see the part 1 video, maybe those teams will work for you. Danmachi is, of course, the best team to use here. It's built for this fight. But let me know if you have any other teams you found that worked. But take it easy, and I'll see you all later.